In the digital world, you have access to lots of information about your prospects and clients. So you want to personalize their experience. You want to make sure that when they contact you, you have all the information available. And even more, it's great if you're able to tell they have a problem before they tell you they have a problem.
Welcome to the Agile Digital Transformation Podcast, where we explore different aspects of digital transformation and digital experience with your host, Tim Butera, Content and Community Manager at AgileDrop.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm joined today by Guillaume Portalier, co-founder and COO of Waalaxy, an advanced lead generation platform for LinkedIn and email. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the evolution of customer experience in business to business with a look at the move from traditional to digital B2B customer experience and a focus on more recent digital trends such as omnichannel experiences. And welcome to the show, Guillaume. Thank you for being our guest today. It's great to have you. Would you like to add anything here?
I think you did it right. So thanks for having me, Tim.
Thanks for joining us again. And I think we have a great topic today. I think it's one that definitely a lot of our listeners will find very valuable. But I want to take a step back from what B2B CX looks like today. And I kind of want to look at this distinction or at this move from kind of traditional or physical CX, where there used to be quite a clear distinction between business to customer, so B2C on one hand, and business to business, B2B on the other. And I'm wondering, what's the situation like as we move more and more into the digital? Is this distinction still so clear, or what do you say?
Yeah, I would say it's not so clear anymore. Here at Waalaxy, we used to say that the difference between a B2C and a B2B, for B2B, they're basically B2C, C, so consumer, entering an office, basically. So what it means is basically have the same requirements and the same expectations as consumers. So namely, they want to have answers very rapidly. And they're they expect a lot from their overall experience, not just the customer experience, but I would say the overall experience. So
even though it's cheesy, I quite like the term human to human as kind of describing or kind of exposing that there isn't a clear distinction between two, because when we use these acronyms, we sometimes forget that, even if it's B2C, even if it's B2B, ultimately, it's a human who will end up buying either your product, your service, signing up to your SaaS service and whatnot. So we really shouldn't forget that.
Yeah, that's it. And also when you speak about digital experiences to the contrary of physical experiences, I think it's really easy for people to switch from one product to another. So if you, if you as a consumer or customer standpoint, if you have questions about a product or a service, a digital product, digital service, you will expect a very rapid answer. Otherwise, you can just look for another service or another competing product on Google, and in less than 5 seconds, you'll have a competitors, and you'll just move on. So that's also why I think it's very important to be extremely fast.
Mm-hmm. So there has to be this combination of speed and customer centricity in both, I guess. And I think that we'll have a question specifically dedicated to this a bit later on, but let's kind of first ease into it for a bit. So we kind of discussed or recovered this transition. And if we look at the situation now, what are the key elements of B2B customer experience so today in 2022?
Yeah, I would say it's not a secret that, every companies tell they are customer centric, mm-hmm. But I think digital companies must be consumer centric just on another level compared to the customer centricity of physical products and physical services. So obviously you always want to be customer centric. It just means that when you're customer centric in digital in the digital world, it's just a whole other level. Obviously, it implies lots of technology compared to physical products or services. In the digital world, you have access to lots of information about your prospects and clients. So you want to personalize their experience. You want to make sure that when they contact you, you have all the information available, and even more, it's great if you're able to tell they have a problem before they tell you they have a problem. And so sometimes you're able to detect that they encounter a problem or a bug or anything, and then you push them some information about that, and you have this possibility to really be proactive. And I think this makes a big difference in how they feel and how they feel treated and the overall customer experience.
I think one of the most important points here, Guillaume, is proactiveness. I'm really glad you mentioned this.
Yeah, definitely.
And also one other, you mentioned that you have all of that companies now have all of this data at their disposal, and they have a lot of options for personalization. And one thing that I kind of assume about B2B, maybe that's still a little bit different in B2C, is that B2C will rely a lot on this data-driven personalization, whereas with B2B, you will also need to combine data-driven insights with kind of first-hand human insights obtained from, I don't know, conversations with clients and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's entirely true. Though again, I'm really big fan of this idea of B2C and B2C kind of merging and having both the same expectations. But it's true that in general, in B2B, you might have more information coming from a previous call or a previous conversation, but that you will want to integrate to the other set of data you have. And then again, I think it's important to make the distinction between, because B2B is a big thing, and within it you have different types of customers, and so I think you can draw two clear distinctions between. So we at Waalaxy are what we call a product-led growth company, and so this means that we're very close to B2C in our marketing approach, in our customer experience approach. And so we don't have salespeople, we don't have account-based management. So we don't have this additional information that we might have if you compare to a more classic, I would say, a sales-driven organization where you have salespeople that are here to perform demos, to eventually, or perhaps answer a question on the phone, and account-based management where you follow your clients and give them updates about the new features. And so I think it's a bit different. The customer experience looks a bit different whether you're a sales-led organization or a product-led growth organization. But overall, the end result is kind of the same. You want to leverage all the data you have, and you want to answer as fast as possible and be proactive in the relation.
What about if we look at the kind of explosion of different various digital channels that we've seen, whereas before maybe 15 years ago it was mostly just the internet, and then kind of moved into the smartphones, and then now you have all of these different channels, and as a result you have multi-channel and omni-channel experiences. How do these factor into B2B customer experience and everything that we've talked about so far?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same of the outbound strategies or sales strategy that you have. So first you have kind of the basic one channel strategy where you would call or cold email your prospects, and now you have the possibility to have a very broader outreach experience. So using, as you mentioned, omni-channel strategy. So you can contact them on LinkedIn, you can send them cold email, you can have a cold call, you can have a type of cookies, you can retarget them on social media platforms. And I think it's kind of the same for your customers, because what's the goal of an omni-channel strategy overall, whether it's for customer success or to get new clients, their sales prospecting, it's the goal is to show yourself everywhere it's possible. And so there's a famous cognitive bias, which is called the mirror exposure effect, that basically says that the more you're exposed to something, a brand, a product, a service, and the more you tend to like it. And that's why you actually see Coca-Cola ads basically everywhere. And of course, everybody knows Coca-Cola. You don't need an ad to know that Coca-Cola exists. But the more you see Coca-Cola ads, and the more you're likely to have a positive opinion about Coca-Cola. And I think it's kind of the same for your customer experience. Everywhere your clients are, you want to be. And if you didn't have the possibility to reach out, for example, I don't know, the classical way would be emailing. So you send an email to your clients because you want to have them. But as you know, when you do emails, there are lots of people that just don't read their email, don't open their email because, people tend to get lots of email. But you can maximize your success by adding another layer, for example, LinkedIn, or again, not directly ads, but more social media content. So you want to, I don't know, write on LinkedIn. Depending on your industry, you might also want to be on TikTok, Instagram, etc. So I think it's important to diversify your channel when it comes to maintaining the relationship with your clients.
And I think here again, data plays a very important role, right? Because how do you know which channels your preferred clients and customers use if you don't have the information about which channels they use, right?
Exactly.
And one other thing that we kind of briefly started talking about but haven't really pinpointed it is chat support, right? We talked about how the response to the customers needs to be fast, needs to be timely, and streamlined chat support is one of the most important tactics that you can use here, one of the most surefire tactics. So how important is this for B2B organizations? And are there any industries or use cases where it's particularly essential?
I would say any B2B SaaS, it's essential. And I think we already see this move from traditional call centers to the more digital approach using the chat support. I think there's also a generational move where in general, older people like to have someone on the phone, to take the time to ask their question and have a proper human being, even though it's proper human being behind the chat support. There are a group of people, generally older people, that want to have someone on the phone. And for people that are my generation, so like in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, we tend to like more the chat support where it's both instantaneous and also you have the time to do something else for like 2 minutes waiting for your answer, and then you come back and you have an answer. So as we move forward, I think chat support will play an even bigger important role. And as it comes to a SaaS product and B2B SaaS products, again, it's so much easier to leverage your data when you're using a chat support, because you have all the information about your prospects in real time. And I think also one of the biggest factor, obviously, is your ability to handle way more people at the same time using chat support. So, for example, here at Waalaxy, we have more than 10,000 clients and 80,000 users. So we have a lot of people using our tool on a daily basis. And it would be almost impossible to have someone on the phone to answer questions about bugs and features. And today we have like 7 people that are on the chat support and that are able to reply to like hundreds of tickets every day in less than 2 minutes. So I think it's way more efficient. And again, it's a way to you can automate lots of things with the chat support. And I'm not even speaking about all the the bots that you can set up depending on most commonly asked question. To be frank, I'm not really a big fan of those. I'm sure there are organizations where it's super important and it plays a big role. But for us, what we've seen is, people in the end, people want to speak to a proper human, and they're just not really comfortable. Again, if you want to be really fast in the way you're giving an answer, you can't really have like 10 questions to click before you can actually speak to a proper human. And I think we've all come through this horrible experience where, yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking about my phone subscription, for example, my mobile phone subscription, where, they say they have a chat, but truth is they don't really have a chat. It's a bot, and it's awful because like 90% of the time they don't have an answer to your question, and so that's an horrible experience, and obviously that's not what you want to provide. So I think you're better off, having a proper human and maybe one or two questions to qualify the problem beforehand, but not much more. And then also you can automate lots of things. So as I was saying, you can automate lots of things, but not necessarily be all questions from the bot, but more what we call saved replies. So usually when you have a service or a product, you tend to have kind of the same questions coming again and again. And with the use of saved replies, you can, with using basic variables such as first name, so that the person has the impression that the message is not really like it's a tailor-made, and you can write a proper message that goes into detail about the question. So whether it might be a feature question, pricing question, or even sometimes a bug question where you have a recurring bugs, or currently you have a bug, exactly what to say, and you don't want to type this answer like 10 times a day. So you have a saved reply, and boom, with a shortcut you can access it very rapidly, and it plays a huge role in how fast we're able to answer our customers here at Waalaxy.
I mean, in this last case, even if you were like replying to emails and you had to send out a very similar email to, I don't know, 5 different people, you probably wouldn't go about reinventing the wheel and kind of trying to produce unique copy for each of them, because it's kind of assumed that like the time that you got the copy right, this is the right version of the copy, and you wouldn't want a different customer getting a worse version of your email just because you want it to be different. So it probably, if it weren't, as you just pointed out, for chat support, it would probably just end up me being copy pasting the same text like 3 times or 4 times. And, I guess the effect would be the same. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad that you started talking about chatbots, because I wanted to ask you what you think about those. And I figured that, yeah, probably in B2B, like there has to be, at least, even if you do have a chatbot to kind of start out the conversation, there has to be this transition or handoff to a like human chat support person that will actually be able to address the needs and pains of the customer. Yeah.
Yeah, so for chatbots, it's not entirely garbage. Don't get me wrong, but I can see a handful of use cases. I don't know. For example, you have a very precise question about about the pricing model. So I think you don't necessarily need unless your product or service is very complicated and has a very complicated pricing. I think it's easy to just have an answer like I have a question about pricing, and then behind this you have a very thorough and clear explanation of how your pricing works. And then if the person has another question, maybe he or she can speak to a proper human. Also, you might want to gain some time by asking exactly what's the problem, because what you see sometimes is, as it's a chat, sometimes people just come and say, hey, I have a problem. And then they are waiting for you to come and say, hey, how can I help, etc. So, and you have another category of people that are just like, hey, my problem is that, da, 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 da. And then you can start immediately to see what the problem is. But when you have people that are just like, hey, how are you? You might want to gain some time by having a bot automatically says, hey, how I might help? Please describe your problem or your question to help me understand. So that might be of help again. And a bunch of other, very general questions, it might make sense. And probably in the future, as AI improves, bots will make more and more sense. And particularly the feature that allows you have basically you can answer your problem, with your own words. It's not like I offer you a choice between 4 questions, for example, and you really have a space where you can write your problem in your own words, and then you will have a bot analyzing the text and the question or the problem, and based on that, the bot will offer you predefined answers that we would have defined on our end. I mean, it already exists. We've tested it, but I think it's as there are so many ways to ask for basically the same question, I think we're not quite there yet in terms of AI performance. But I'm sure at some point we will get there, and then it will make more sense to have a bot to really help you treating the customer inquiries.
Do you maybe have any other predictions or expectations for a business-to-business customer experience? Maybe not just in the context of chat support, but like in the broader context.
Yeah, but basically a sum up of everything we've said. So more digital experiences, more new channels, more bots. That's for sure, because companies want to save money, and it's cost efficient to have one bot instead of 10 people answering. Even though it's not as good for now, when it will be, for sure, you'll see a lot more bots. And again, the necessity to be quicker and quicker. And I think, especially again, companies always say, okay, we're customer centric. Our top priority is our customers. But for digital products and digital services, I think we'll get even further. And yeah, you'll see even more tailor-made relationships, because customer relationship is, in the end, it's companies tend to understand more and more how important it is, because there's a famous saying that goes like it's like 10 times more costly to acquire new customers versus just retaining one existing customer. And I think it's true, and I think companies tend to realize this more and more, especially in the digital world, where you can track more things. And in the physical world, it's hard to tell exactly what types of people are not using your product anymore, what types of people are coming again to buy your products once more. And in the digital world, it's way more easy. So you have way more data, and yeah, again, it will be more data driven. That's for sure.
That's definitely one prediction that we can 100% count on, that will definitely take place. Thanks so much, Guillaume, for sharing your expertise and your thoughts with us today. Just before we wrap up this great conversation, if our listeners would like to reach out to you or maybe learn more about you, learn more about Waalaxy, where can they do all that?
Yeah, so basically, I'll share with you my LinkedIn profile, and so I'm happy to chat with you on LinkedIn. I'm only on LinkedIn. We don't really use emails. And again, for Waalaxy, I'll also share a link. If people use this link, they will have a 2 months subscription for free. So if they want to try the product, I think it's a good opportunity.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much again, Guillaume, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, Tim. Thanks. It was also a great pleasure.
Well, to our listeners, that's all for this episode. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to check out our other episodes, you can find all of them at agiledrop.com/podcast, as well as on all the most popular podcasting platforms. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes, and don't forget to share the podcast with your friends and colleagues.